for you, Ali.
Okay.
Zero. We didn't create any jobs in August, and that is, we'd seen economists lowering their expectations over the past day or two, and they were right, zero. The unemployment rate was steady at 9.1%, but no jobs were created. So that's what it looks like for you here. This is the forecast for 75,000 jobs created. Instead, it was nothing. 17,000 jobs cut by the government, 17,000 jobs created in the private sector, but this is a labor market that's doing nothing, essentially. I want to show you since the president took office, because this is a huge political story. As you know, this is what it looked like when the president first took office. These are how many jobs we were losing, hundreds of thousands every month. We saw some activity related to the stimulus, related to census hiring, a little bit of momentum here. But now, as I said, you've got nothing here again. Oops, sorry, you can't see that. You got nothing here again. So that's, it's a disappointment. It really is a disappointment. But I will say that markets have been anticipating this. I mean, they had thought that this is the most powerful middle class in the world, right? And they're not seeing the signs of economic activity that they would have liked.
Yep.
They're not seeing the confidence among businesses and consumers that many people think at this stage of a recovery we should have. Companies sitting on $2 trillion in cash, not hiring people, and frankly, people putting money in the bank and in their pockets because they're still uncertain about what's going to happen next. So there you go, 9.1%. It's the worst, I think, since September 2010, the worst month for jobs creation since September 2010.
All right, come over and join me. We're going to talk to Ken Rogoff of Harvard about this. I just want to give you a couple of highlights, though, of this. Healthcare did go up in August, 30,000 new jobs. The government is counting the 45,000 Verizon workers who were off. There was some question as to whether or not they would be counted. So they have been included in this, which means they're back. That strike's over. So that's a bit of an anomaly. There were 45,000 people there. Manufacturing was essentially unchanged. Yeah, it's kind of flat. Ken Rogoff joins us now. He's a professor of economics at Harvard University, former chief economist with the IMF. Ken, good to see you. We're in this weird place where we don't even have these strong reactions to these job reports because we all get that we're kind of stagnating.
Well, I think that's happened especially the last couple of months,
yeah,
where a lot of the numbers have come in soft, and those forecasters who thought we were going to bounce out of this at the end are now saying this is going to be a long time. All the growth numbers are getting lowered, and I'm afraid this isn't that surprising. It is discouraging, but it's not that surprising.
Is our analysis right that companies are holding onto their cash, people are holding onto their cash, still paying off an awful lot of debt, and you look 6 months down the road, and whether you're, running your household budget or you're running a company, you're like, I don't really know. I'm not confident enough about the outlook to really be making any big decisions.
Well, I don't think there's any question about that there's a big overhang of debt in the economy. We have not left the recession. I mean, I think that's the point most Americans understand. And the thing holding us back from a normal recovery is not just the government debt that everybody worries about, but all the private debt, the mortgages,
right?
And it's
all
slow.
still there.
We all owe money to somebody.
Yeah.
So here we go into next week, where the president is going to have this much vaunted speech. Well, what can he possibly say that could provide any relief to anybody?
Confidence, because people need confidence.
Right.
Companies and people need confidence that it's going to turn around.
The sad fact is what happened this summer with the debt debacle really discouraged everybody. It made everyone in Washington smaller, I think. And people felt, well, there isn't going to be anything in Washington. We're going to see paralysis for another year. And even if President Obama puts forth a great idea, can he get it done? But if I were him, I would put forward my idea. This is what I want to do. I would not ask, what can I get done? What's politically feasible at this point?
Right.
Where do I want to be the next decade? And just state it very clearly.
If you had his ear, what would you be telling him? Payroll tax cut? You'd be telling him new job retraining programs? What would you be telling him?
Well, I think the infrastructure idea is a good idea. Anyone who travels around the United States knows we have problems, and they're more subtle ones, like our electric grid.
And sewer lines.
And there are a lot of unemployed construction workers. I mean, that's a good idea, although you have to finance it in a sensible way. You can't be paying 3 times going rates for the jobs you're creating. Nobody wants that. And certainly not sharply raising taxes right now, I think, is pretty clear. And I suppose he'll announce that. So, these are reasonable things. But Otherwise, you just got to look at the fundamentals: education, investment.
Right.
There's no quick fix.
Earlier in the program, we were talking about the unemployment rates for people with a college degree and the average weekly earnings for people with a college degree. Is that still a buffer, more education and a relevant education, if we're going to be in an environment? I say this, he's a professor, of course, so I mean, I have a feeling that you have a particular bent on this. But what I mean is how people who look at this report and are discouraged every time they hear us talk about jobs, what can a family do?
Well, I certainly think that education is going to be important in the long run. That's not going to change, but it's not helping necessarily right now. I can't tell you how many kids are getting out of college and they can't find a job after 1 year, after 2 years. They have a really high unemployment rate. So, you know, there isn't anything quick, and, you know, you can be more flexible about what you'll take, being willing to move, which of course is hard for some Americans because of their house.
Ken is so practical. I mean, I keep saying, so Ken, how are we going to turn it around? He says, well, Christine, we had a financial crisis, and now we have a debt crisis and a leadership crisis, and it takes years for these things to work out.
And as our friend Diane Swong said, if there were silver bullets, someone would have fired it by now.
Yeah,
this is going to take a while.
I think that's the main message, is that we never left the recession. We're in a great contraction. It's not as bad as the Great Depression, and give Washington a little bit of credit for that. It could have been worse. But it's just not going to be ebullient. We're just not going to be racing out of this.
When people feel bad about their economic circumstances, they take it out on their politics and their leaders. So it's going to get sticky and ugly. People are going to get blamed and credited for things that they had nothing to do with, and it's just going to be...
Well, I like to think whoever wins the presidency will be able to trumpet a recovery by the end of that. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so whoever wins is going to say, I did great.
Our new CNN ORC poll says 8 out of 10 Americans do think we're in a recession right now. Ken,
They're
good to see you. Good to see you. All right. Coming up ahead on American Morning, 4-time